Hello everyone, my name is Loco, and welcome to a best of 3 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Terran versus Zerg, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on the map Ley Lines. Spawning right here in the bottom left hand corner, playing with the red Terran, the red Zerg drones. I've casted this game before, I know some of the unit names. Playing all the way from Canada. We're looking inside of the main base of Scarlett. Her opponent from South Korea, I guess these are the blue Zerg pieces? The blue Protoss probes. We're looking at none other than Kjur's main command center. Alrighty, now these two, they played against each other twice in June. They've played against each other over the course of the month. I was actually wondering if I had already... So I got this particular replay pack sent over to me by Wardy, and I was wondering if I had already cast these two going up against each other. And sure, I had, but that was from another tournament. This best of 3 was played during one of the Wardy weeklies. Really nice to see both Scarlett and Kjur actually signing up for it. Because, well, let's be honest, generally speaking, I mean, Kjur does sign up for some of them, but Scarlett usually does not. Scarlett has been picking the game back up over the last few months, it seems. She's been improving very quickly once again, and, well, spoiler alert for that other series they played. Scarlett ended up winning over Kjur 2-0, which honestly surprised me a little bit, because Kjur has been looking very strong throughout the year, and, well, I'm sure that Kjur also vividly remembers that particular series that they played earlier. So this time around, he will obviously try to obtain the victory, right? He doesn't want to... You know, you don't want to go down back-to-back. You don't want to start up any rivalries, even if it's just for like an online cup or whatever. These are the type of games that can sort of linger in your head a little bit, and I think most of the time, at least, you know, if I were to make predictions, Kjur should be the favorite against Scarlett, but Scarlett is not somebody you can ever truly count out. What I really like about her gameplay is still the heavy focus on creep spread. That is something that she became very well known for back in the early days of StarCraft 2, and it's something that never really changed. The only big difference, I suppose, is that most of the top-level Zerg players, maybe not Elazer so much, Elazer has been doing a lot of, like, 3 Queen openers and all that, but most of the top-level Zerg players are very good at creep spread these days. But Scarlett certainly still puts an emphasis on it, and it allows this very mobile, very flowy army. It's just an APM limitation, right? Like, that is the main problem you run into. Ultimately, players have a finite amount of actions that they can do throughout a game of StarCraft 2. Usually it is about 500 or so average actions a minute for Zerg players at this level. It's very quick, but obviously you have to... some of it is going to be spam, obviously, and some of it is, well, repeat rates and repeat delays and all the rest of it, right? So it's a little bit inflated, but there's no denying that there's only so many things you can do in every minute of StarCraft, and while at this point in the game, it's still possible to be flawless for both the Zerg as well as the Terran, later on, you have to start making decisions. And usually, the way that works, StarCraft 2 players have like a mental priority list, right? And you build up. And usually, at some point, when you have the game going on for a little while, creep spread sort of slips to the bottom. When you have your bases connected, and you maybe have a couple of tumors out in the open, usually that's when creep spread starts taking a bit less of a priority. But Scarlett always keeps it going, which is really fun. And also when the creep tumors die, she will likely be replacing them. Either way, for now, everything here is very normal. Zerg opening up a quick triple hatch. Quick triple command center here for Kjur. Technically, of course, it always looks a little bit greedy, especially if you don't watch a ton of StarCraft. Because now you're effectively making 3 command centers off of like a Marine and a Reaper. It feels a little greedy, but again, this is one of the things that top players are very good at. They can generally defend most everything, other than the opponent taking a massive gamble. But that's why those early game scouts come in. Most everything can be defended with a build order like this. Okay, so Hellions are going to try and roast some of the drones. Evo Chamber block gets denied for now. 2 drones fall with the first little volley. Not bad at all. Banshee on the back of this as well. Second Banshee is going to be queued up, I'm assuming. Would make a lot of sense. There we go. Usually you go double Banshee when you go for the cloaking upgrade. Mostly because it takes about 2 Banshees. So the research duration for this is identical to the time that it would be to produce 2 Banshees here. So we're gonna be able to start up some of that multi-pronged harassment. Notice how Scarlett has put her queens and her overlords in really tactical positions. So overlords are always supposed to be like leading the creep spread a little bit. And maybe that's one of the reasons why the creep is usually quite far forward. Now, this is a early attempt at a fourth hatch. A little bit greedy for sure. Cure picks up on it immediately. There are overlords here in the middle of the map, or I guess in the middle of the expansions for Scarlett, but she didn't have vision over here at the bottom. So that little bit of cycling there was missed, and because of it, the queens were not quite in position to defend that particular hatch. Cure already knows, though, that the creep spread is going to be a pain if he doesn't shut it down early. I would love to see a creep tumor going down over here on the edge now that there is still some remaining. Okay, Spore Crawler is brought to the front as well, which is cute. Couple creep tumors indeed get planted down. So we have a group of Zerglings at least checking out the other side of the map already. Oh, well, apparently you're welcomed in, Scarlett. Already the depots are up, but one of them lowered right as the Zerglings arrived at the Great Wall. This is going to be a bit costly, and it's going to nullify some of that advantage that Cure has been building up. Cloak Banshees, though, going into the main base. There is a Spore Crawler nearby, as well as an Overseer. Again, Scarlett a little bit late on the response. Takes more drones here than she should, although maybe one of the... Yes, nicely done. One of the Banshees, indeed, will fall. Okay. Stimpak, +1/+1, so double upgrades here. In the meantime, on the Zerg side, we have the Roach Warren. Going into Roach Speed, and then also the 1/1 upgrades for those units. Most notably, it's the +1 missile. Generally speaking, +1 missile is one of those upgrades that you only go for if you want to make a lot of roaches, or maybe even potentially like a roach bust. Now, if you want to go for a mass roach all-in, usually that's done off of about 66 workers. So that's enough for 3 base saturation. Scarlett already going up to 78 makes me think that this is just going to be to not die to stupid stuff. Although maybe there's a little bit of redundancy built in, because the Hellions are still roaming around. Scarlett has been very late on the unit production, so up until this point, it's basically just been Lynx. Now finally is when she starts up some of those roaches, and I think that'll be the end for worker killing at the very least for Cure. And Scarlett is honestly, even though she's taken a bunch of damage, right? 942 lost minerals in total because of that hatchery cancel. She's been so greedy that this is actually a fine spot for the Zerg. Overlords now start up as well. We have a very quick infestation pit. This is looking like about a, well, 7.5, 8 minute hive timing here for Scarlett. Maybe it's going to be roaches into Ultralisks. Certainly an opportunity. Now, Cure has decided to put all of his eggs into one big attack here. There is, of course, something to fall back to, but this is a push that needs to deal some sort of damage. Killing the hatchery would be huge. Second Stimpak is already used up. Yeah, the roaches have their speed research already. That siege tank, though, just hitting away at whatever it can get. Bunch of Zerglings on the right side of the map, too. Maybe bringing them home would not be a bad call. Looks like the Ravagers do not all connect their biles to the tank. Ultimately, it does fall. This hatchery, though? I mean, you can transfuse it, but this is one Terran drop away from going down, so I really don't mind the idea of maybe even starting up another hatchery over here in the middle. Cure thinking the same thing, as he is checking this with a Banshee, getting rid of some of the creep. You can tell here that maybe Cure did not enjoy playing that previous series against Scarlett very much, because he's been extremely diligent, shutting down the creep spread here. Hive coming up, by the way, together indeed with 2 Infestors. The 2 Infestors have once more started gaining a lot of traction. Marine drop goes on here, but doesn't really achieve all too much. Baneling Nest as well here for Scarlett. I'm assuming, yes, melee upgrade coming up because of it. Melee together with +2 armor would be really good. So you can use the roaches to then transition to Infestor, Ling Bane, and then eventually into Ultras. Okay. Cure, what exactly are we going to do? Well, we've already got a second factory at the front, so double siege tank production is indeed going to be the name of the game. And the 4th command center coming up before barracks 6, 7, and 8. A lot of Terran players have been very fond of adding on the, well, additional barracks before the 4th CC. We've been seeing a lot of 3-base all-ins from Terran as of late. Not what Cure is opting for here, and I think that's probably why we have the +1 missile as well, just to really help when it comes to defending this sort of aggression here from Cure. I mean, this is still a scary push, though. Obviously, he didn't get the kill on the hatchery up north, but he will be able to kill the hatchery down south. And this one, even though the queens have been accumulating energy, it means that obviously they're using the energy not on creep spread anymore, but now on transfusions. Still though, despite a lot of these units going down on the other side of the map, the Ling Run die is going to hurt. Push over here is still ongoing, although Scarlett doesn't really have any need to fight into those sieged up tanks. A lot of workers for the Terran going down. And so far, that is honestly Scarlett's saving grace. 16 workers falling on the side of the Terran is huge. She's actually engaging here. I can't believe she's engaging here into the tanks. There's nothing to gain. Well, unless the Terran eats the corrosive biles or isn't paying attention and you like get some really nice fungals off. But fighting off creep at an expansion that is already dead, nothing really to be gained in that particular spot. Here we go again. Cure decides to move out. Ultra Cavern does start up relatively late in the grand scheme of things. Scarlett starts up additional infestors and then also an additional baneling speed here. So that'll be very nice to have, but it's still minutes away until Lingbane Ultra can really properly hit the battlefield. So Cure is going to have a real opportunity to deal damage right now. 2-2 is done here for Terran. It's going to make those Marines way better. Looks like we have a nice little hit squad here. That's part of the army that killed that hatchery at the bottom of the map. In the meantime, though, the larger part of Terran is moving around the top section, and I believe this is entirely unscouted. Yep, Cure is scanning right now, sees that there's nothing much other than a bunch of queens. That will be another dead hatchery, and no cancel on that one this time around. Scarlett did fungal the Metavex at the bottom of the map. Ooh, infestors, Scarlett! Fungal! Okay, she does get the fungal, but loses all of the infestors in the process. This is that hatchery that took a lot of damage earlier on, and I believe it is going to go down here. At least if Cure decides to target it. Yeah, he's just taking it easy. He knows that that base is not going to be able to survive this particular engagement, and Cure snipes another base. Finally, the +2 melee starts up here for Scarlett, together with the +3 armor. She's desperately rebuilding a bunch of hatcheries, because right now, those drones don't have a place to mine. Now, do we see a transition here from Cure? We have the additional barracks, yes. But do we go into, for example, ghosts? Do we go into, for example, Liberator production? Both of those are excellent choices. Alternatively, though, we can also just double down and just keep pumping out those siege tanks 2 at a time. They are very difficult for Zerg to shut down. Ultras, however, are coming. And fungal growth and Ultras go together very, very nicely. But so far, despite being maxed out, Scarlett is not looking like she's in a good position at all. Yep, another siege tank, but it's a siege tank for an infestor, another hatchery for a couple of Marines. Cure is looking extremely powerful. Additional command centers coming up. We've got ourselves a Ghost Academy also building right next to it. Cure is preparing for a late game, but if he can continue at this rate, Zerg is going to bleed out very, very soon. This is a Zerg unit composition that needs to be replenished all the time. And at this point, Scarlett just doesn't have the mining to properly get it going. I think her best bet at this point is to get some really big fungals off, but all of the infestors are already gone. So I guess now the plan is to survive until Ultras are out. Maybe hide them for a little bit, although at this point, Cure has certainly seen them. Personal cloaking has started up as well for the ghosts. No ghosts available just yet, but Cure will probably be making some of them in just a moment. Still though, those Ultras are just absolutely melting. They're not fully upgraded yet, +3 armor. Still researching inside of the evolution chamber, so the siege tanks and the Marines alone do just fine. Now 3-3 has kicked in as well for the Marines and the Marauders, and they're gonna be even stronger than they were in the previous fight. Lots of Ultras though are spawning, but the siege tank numbers are so freaking big. Into this choke point we go again. I really like the layers here of siege tanks, right? The Marines and the Marauders mostly just trying to buy a little bit of time, ready to sacrifice themselves for the Terran Dominion. In the meantime, we have the follow-up attack here up north. Cure giving up on the army down south, but using this as an opportunity to fight up north, and now ghosts are indeed also added into the mix. Brilliant gaming here by Cure. Very fast, very smooth. Ever since really like the Hellion Banshee aggression, there were one or two little Zergling run-bys that maybe surprised him a bit. But ever since that point, Cure has looked pretty much unstoppable. Very difficult for Scarlett to get back into the swing of things. Another hatchery gets knocked down. Still though, it's important here for Cure to not overextend. This is not game over for Scarlett yet. Her entire game plan was to get to Ultras that are fully upgraded, and minus the +3 melee, we are pretty much there. The drone count can be rebuilt. There's 4 hatcheries on the production tab. So Scarlett is basically crossing her fingers and hoping that this little squad of tunneled roaches can buy enough time so the hatcheries can once more bring in some of the juice. Because, well, Cure, if he can keep on rolling forward, it's going to be very difficult to stop. Look at this. We have the building armor coming up, the high-sec auto-tracking. I think Scarlett is likely going to unburrow the roaches when she sees Terran ready to move out. So I kind of like that she's not immediately unburrowing them. These are to buy time, not so much to deal damage. Another hatchery, though, at the bottom of the map falls. Okay, this is the big push here from Terran. That hatchery will indeed go down, and I think this is when the roaches decide to pop up. Yep, a little bit of damage done. Now, is Kure going to retreat? He really doesn't need to send the entire army back. It's only a handful of roaches after all, and they're not particularly well upgraded. Spire coming up as well for Scarlett. I find this very ambitious. But I think Spire is basically her only way, right? She's thinking, okay, I need to do something. If I keep playing like this, Terran is going to just outscale me so quickly. But I'm wondering if maybe just doubling down on what she already has is the better choice. A Spire is 200 minerals, 200 gas after all, and this Terran army is looking mighty hard to beat with the units that she currently has. Kure, trying to tighten the noose. Well aware of the fact that Zerg is doing some very greedy expansions. I don't know if the one in the top left-hand corner has been seen yet. No, Kure knew that the Zerg player multi-expanded, but 4 hatcheries at once is pretty uncommon. So apparently one of them is going to be allowed for the time being, but I mean, there's not a whole lot of mining happening over here at all. Roaches, by the way, still inside of the Terran's main. Calm and collected, though. Kure is just moving forward. Look at this. We have a mech transition on the back of this. 3 factories coming up. So rather than going Liberators, Kure apparently wants to go Ghosts together with mech. Now, I find it kind of unnecessary. Like I said, this is from a weekly tournament, so maybe it's just some experimentation against a player of Scarlett's caliber, as we do have the fungal growth coming in from the top of the screen. This is Scarlett's way out of the game, potentially, as we have more and more Ultras joining in the fight. Okay. Kure has just put a lot of money into infrastructure, right? Like, we have command centers, we've got additional factories. Extremely difficult to get use out of that just yet. We do have some Liberators now, though, and I think the Libs are absolutely critical. Oh, Fungal would have been awesome. She does get one, but great EMP as well from Kure. Oh, we have a couple of corrosive balls there, shutting down one of the Ultras. Roaches once more trying to just be a distraction as much as possible. We once more have an expansion as well in the bottom of the map, but Scarlett is still trying to play catch-up in that department. Okay. I think it's important here for Kure not to get overly aggressive, right? So 6 SCVs go down. Immediately, though, 10 SCVs now. Immediately, though, 6 of them get rebuilt as well, and Kure is going to add an extra wave of them, too. Maybe resorting some of those workers to the new bases would be good. Either way, base in the top left, it was up for a little while. It is now going to be, well, spotted by the Terran at the very least. Some nice stutter step control here. How many command centers are we on? We have 2 fresh command centers that don't have anything on them yet. 4 orbitals. Okay. Let's see. How much can we do with this? Well, that's another great fungal. Yeah, and those Roaches and Ravagers are not bad. Honestly, the fact that Scarlett is still hanging in this game is impressive. Those factories, by the way, were never used. I don't think, yeah, most of them are just sort of here. Maybe Kure was cooking up something, but then he realized that he really can't be too creative here. Maybe the plan was to like go mass command center or something like that. Another Infestor is available. I would still love to see a Raven. I know it's difficult to mix in, and I know it's not great, but it would be really nice at spotting those randomly burrowed Infestors in all of those locations, because it's really the only way for Scarlett to get back into this. Here we go again. Fungal goes down on some of the units over here. We have some abductions on the Liberators too. That's going to morph them, well, out of their anti-ground mode. This Infestor is nice, but it doesn't really have anything to Fungal, and I don't think Scarlett can continue fighting this particular Terran army. More and more reinforcements are running in. Ultras are about to spawn, but the Fungal energy is already being used up. Some nice snipes as well. Ultras try to run away, but it won't be happening just yet. Okay. Now the lifeline of the Zerg player is that base all the way in the top left. But Kure, absolutely relentless in game number 1, obtains the victory. Okay, next up, we find ourselves on the map Pylon. Scarlett in the bottom right, Kure in the top left. I quite like the Ultra Infestor combo. There have been a lot of units in the game in StarCraft 2, right, where in isolation, they're kind of crap. I think the Ultra falls in that category. Massing Ultralisks really doesn't do a whole lot. But if you use them in combination with Infestors, suddenly they become a lot more playable. And that's really a theme we've been seeing over the last months. Zerg players have become very fond of just making a ton of Ultras together with Infestors. And Scarlett is making more Infestors than basically anybody out there. Now, I don't know if it was due to the fact that she mismicroed them and some of them fell before ever getting to cast a fungal. But she certainly did make quite a few in that previous game. Maybe she believes that making more is actually better in that particular spot. I would imagine the ratio should probably be like 1 Infestor for every like 3 Ultras or so. But having some of them burrowed around the map is very, very strong. Until Terrans one day will make a Raven and add it to their unit composition. I actually uploaded a video recently on my second channel, youtube.com/moreloco, if you're interested. Links are also, of course, down below in the description of every YouTube video that I upload. But anyways, I did upload a video of me watching a video of Hero Marine. I'm referring to a video of me watching a video of Hero Marine. Yes, that's exactly right. Hero Marine uploaded a 50-minute long, I guess we can call it a video essay, as to why Terran players don't make Ravens in the late game. And he brings up some very valid points. In general, orbital commands are better. Orbital commands are just simply superior, but I still believe that there are some points. Especially when Zerg is just kind of what we saw in the previous game, right? Having like an Infestor over here and an Infestor over there, and like they're just sort of sharking around. Stumbling upon some of those units would be extremely nice, having some form of mobile detection, but a lot of Terran players, well, they obviously prefer having the orbital commands to scan ahead of anything else. Yeah, Hero Marine's conclusion was basically that there are better alternatives out there, and Ravens are kind of clunky. Not very easy to use, not very straightforward, and not really a good alternative to scans. But I still feel like it would be a decent addition, especially when Zerg is just sort of randomly burrowing things. But most of the time, even like a missile turret is actually better as a detector than a Raven is, which is a pretty interesting analysis. Either way, triple CC opener here again for Cure. Are we gonna go second barracks? We've got ourselves a starport instead. Fair enough. Starport, tech lab, and maybe cloaking once more. Identical strategy so far here for Cure compared to the game that we just now watched. Scarlett not really mixing it up very much either. Yeah, if I have to be critical of the current StarCraft 2 meta, I think Zerg in general is a little bit too plain in the early game. Harstem actually suggested that maybe bringing Zerg Overlord drops to hatchery tech would be a nice addition, and I actually fully agree. There might be some situations where it could be a bit too strong, but I think most people would agree that having some variety for Zergs in the early game would be really nice. Because most of the time in the current meta, Zergs are the punching bag for the first 8 minutes. And I kind of miss seeing Zerg players going for some aggression. Either way, yeah, I think bringing Overlord drops to hatchery tech would be really fun. Maybe changing the requirement, right, to like an Evo chamber, which is kind of funny because that's what it used to be for a long time. Anyway, Banshee indeed is going to be Cure's starport unit of choice for now. We'll probably go for 2 again, judging by the fact that he's got the cloaking field coming up. And Cure is going to want to try to basically play a similar game to the one that he just did. So what exactly went wrong right there for Scarlett? Well, she was playing Roach Ravager. Roach Ravager is extremely good at basically keeping all of your stuff alive. And to, for example, defend against like a big 8-Rex all-in. Roach Ravager is pretty darn good at that. However, she was out of position a bunch of times and she didn't quite see the Terran army moving out. It's little moments like that where Ling Bane obviously is a lot more... Like when you don't see a unit move out or an army move out, with Ling Bane, you can just send the Zerglings and the Banelings in that direction, right? Roaches and Ravagers, way slower. They will probably arrive after the structure is already down. Spore Crawlers coming up. Bunch of Hellions do jump into the base. A little bit of body blocking here from Scarlett. But 5 drones have already died. And again, we're missing vision. So no vision over here. There is vision up front. There's some vision down south. Yeah. So usually you really want to be positioning overlords, like not too far forward. So like the Marines can't just go ahead and kill them. But you do want to have some overlord vision ahead of where you're looking, because otherwise your creep spread is just going to be out in the middle of nowhere and just sort of crossing your fingers and hoping that the Hellions aren't going to be there. But also, seeing these units coming in, obviously, is very, very important. But again, an APM limitation, more so than anything. That is what players like, for example, Serral are very good at. If you compare Serral's early game to what Scarlett is doing here, Serral's entire early game is just more refined. It's just more methodical. Might be because Scarlett is still maybe just a tad bit rusty. But it's also just because Serral is a freaking monster. Like, he looks like a machine, genuinely. Like, in the early game, it's pretty nutty how much value he can get out of the early game. Still, though, now we arrive at that point where every Zerg player always struggles a little bit because there's just so many balls to juggle. Let's do a little bit of first-person view. So this is what Scarlett was looking at whilst playing the game. Keep in mind that most Zerg players, when they are not looking at the middle of their screen, maybe about 50% of the time, they will be glancing at the minimap. So a lot of attention goes to the minimap at all times. It's very easy to accidentally queue up too many overlords at this point, like the 7 that we see right now, although it's not the end of the world, especially considering that once more, already there's 70 workers here, but little mistakes like that can hurt. Let's look at Cure's first-person view, see what he's up to right now. So he is moving forward in that exact same direction. Getting rid of some of the creep tumors, mostly clearing the way, though, for some of the Banshees here, too. Constantly queuing up additional units, too. You can see it reflected in the bottom right of your screen, what the players have selected. So that's a 4th command center going down together with a 2nd factory. So, honestly, so far, this game is extremely similar to the previous one, except for the fact that Scarlett hasn't lost any of the outer bases. Now, she's also not taking them as greedily, so that will make that a lot easier, right? We do have scans in that direction. Kira's like, hey, you were expanding in the previous game. Why aren't you now? Could you... could you please make some hatcheries so I can go kill them? That would be wonderful. Thank you very much. Scarlett apparently doesn't like that idea all too much, as once more, she's powering out... Okay, never mind. She was powering out a couple infestors, then cancelled them. She was going up to 4, cancelled 2, so I think it must have maybe been a misplay as well in the previous one. Okay. +1, +2. +2, +2. +1. Math equations in StarCraft. We have a fungal growth flying through the screen, not quite achieving much though. Marines just dodge it. Okay. The Hive does feel a bit quicker this time around. Baneling speed should be nice as well. Adrenal glands, Ultra Cavern, all the rest of it. This feels like it's all just a little bit smoother, right? On Scarlett's end of things. In the previous game, even though the strategy is pretty much identical, she was very busy putting out multiple fires at this point in the game. And Cure, I mean, this is a big attack coming in right now, hasn't really been able to achieve anything of that level. There have been a lot of, well, little losses here and there, but nothing all too significant. Zorkling run by again attempted. It's gonna be an important one too, though, because this is a massive move out here for Cure. 2-2 is a little bit late. Or at the very least, this move out is a little bit out of sync with the 2-2 finishing up. Cure is max though, so you may as well test the waters a little bit. Little Zorkling run by. Wouldn't mind seeing it commit there. Planetary is about halfway done. Alright. Cure is setting up shop. Don't mind him. Just point the big guns in the direction of the Zerg. Those nasty bugs. Get him out of here. Absolute cinema, though, trying to go up this little ramp. It's going to be difficult to achieve much. Planetary is done, so those lings are not going to do anything either. What about this push over here, though, for Cure? 2-2 right now is here. And even though the move out felt early, Cure is trying to, well, basically just strangle this hatchery out of existence. How do you defend this as Zerg right now? I don't think you do. Scarlett is gonna try, though. It'll be extremely risky. Fumble Pro does go down on a ton of the units going up the ramp. Ultras are here. And you know what? I didn't think it was going to be possible, especially down a ramp, a very tight choke point like that. But with a bunch of the links flooding in from the right, Scarlett pays a very heavy price there. But she does keep the expansion alive. Just barely. Just barely. That was expensive, though, for Zerg. But Scarlett has 85 drones. And with 85 workers, she can replace lost units quite quickly. It'll take a little bit of time here for Cure to reproduce a lot of it. Next time, though, that this army moves out, it will be even better upgraded. But this is once more giving Scarlett a little bit more stability. The transition here from Roach Ravager into Ultra Bane Infestor is now pretty much complete. There's still some Ravagers left over. We might even have a Roach or two. Nah, they're actually all gone. But we'll probably see no more of them unless absolute desperation. The focus will now be on melee upgrades instead, and maybe like a Spire at some point in the future. We'll have to see what Scarlett's plan was as far as that goes as the game progresses, but she did something similar in the previous one. Anyways, already we've got ourselves the cloaking upgrade coming up for Ghosts. 4 Dropper Lords for Scarlett. Maybe for Ling drops, maybe for Baneling drops, maybe for Ultralist drops. Probably not for Ultras, though. Okay. Very different game now for Cure, right? So Cure has been in a much more passive situation this time around. Great biles right there from Scarlett. So the Infestor ability is not a root, it's a slow, right? So you don't freeze the units in place, you just reduce movement. But I love this, yes. So it's an Overlord drop into Nidus. So I think what we're going to see is Zerglings loaded up, maybe a drop into the main base, a Nidus worm behind it so the units can also go out, or maybe other units can go ahead and reinforce it. Terrans usually kind of feel like they can dominate a lot of the map at this point. And dropping them in the main base or Nidus worms in the main base, it's making life way more difficult. Another big fungal. Woo. Not bad. Easy killings right there for Scarlett. Overlord drop. Oh, it's an empty Overlord drop. Well, something is going wrong here. I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to load some of those units in there. It's a little bit awkward. Maybe it's just as a distraction. It does mean, though, that Cure is going to be able to focus a lot of his attention on this particular army here. And this push, not nearly as successful for Scarlett. Bane going in. Ultras tanking the damage. Command centers are indeed falling. And loads of SCVs also pay the price. Scarlett getting so much value out of those fungal growths, though. And again, new... well, infestors are coming up. She throws them away a little bit too aggressively, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, we've only had 2 infestors so far, and the fungals have been critical, but it'd be really nice if we could shift queue some of them back. Top right-hand base, though, taken here by Scarlett. The far bottom left, also occupied by Scarlett. If she can obviously mine 50% of the map +1, that is a massive advantage for Zerg. And it completely negates a lot of the cost effectiveness. So the empty Overlords have provided vision to the Zerg player to drop down a Nidus Worm in the back of the Terran's main. Nothing inside of the Nidus Worm either, though. So this is... it's very odd. We have 5 empty Dropper Lords together with an empty Nidus Worm. Congratulations, you have done nothing. But maybe Terran is a little scared. Oh, you know what? Some of the units do pop out, but it's a little late now. Terran's already in position to shut down the Nidus Worm, and then also the units that popped out of it. Still, though, it's a distraction here, right? It's difficult to manage all the things. SCVs are falling, and another command center bites the dust. Push over here. Again, none of these fights are cost-effective for Zerg. I'm mostly concerned with the amount of gas that Scarlett has. Look at the 5,000 minerals here and loads of additional gas lost as well, about 2.5k. That is significant. And I really like the building armor here, actually. I think building armor is a super useful upgrade when Zerg starts playing like this. Double Spire for Scarlett. Okay. Could just be for Corruptor into Brute Lord. I do remember some games from a while ago where Zerg players started suddenly making a transition to like mass muta. Extremely good in like the ultimate late game, but you need a stupid amount of gas. And that's exactly what Scarlett doesn't have right now. Needs to be bringing up the Vespene income. Another Nidus Worm in the far top left. Those hatcheries here, yeah, they're not immediately taking their gases. So I'm imagining we're not going to be going mutas here. Maybe just to get some Corruptors out to try and deal with those Liberators a little bit easier. Ultras once more just here to tank damage, and Lings and Banes are, well, really here to deal the damage. Still though, when Ultras actually catch up to their targets, they are not to be underestimated. And Cure is getting absolutely overwhelmed. I mean, we get some nice fungals here again, but it's mostly because the Terrans can't really run any further. The real damage is those 29 SCVs dying, and mostly like a trade of the armies. I think that was still a cost-effective trade for Terran, but on 38 workers, it's really hard to replenish any of this. Double upgrade starting up for Scarlett in the Spires. No greater Spire first. I think it's just for like 10 Corruptors. Just mix in like 10 Corruptors or so. Maybe 8. Just so those Liberators die and those Medeffects go down, because they provide a lot of longevity here. A lot of staying power for the Terran. Still though, don't count Cure out. This is still a Terran player with a load of command centers, and it's not like this is a Terran on 4 bases, right? I mean, this is a 5th base being secured. So despite all of the losses, this is very recoverable for Cure. None of these trades are cost efficient for Scarlett at all. She does have once more the entire map taken. There's, I guess, one more base over here and then also one in the top right, but those are rarely mined on pylon. Man, she's fighting up a lot of tight choke points. Very risky. Fungal growths, blinding clouds, all of it is amazing. Another, well, load of SCVs will die and another command center will fall. It's gonna come at the cost of a lot of Zerg. But Scarlett's game plan here is to slowly suffocate her opponent to death. Yep. Command center will be replaced, right? The problem here for Cure is that there's a finite amount of money in his bases. So even though it's fine to sit on 5 bases most of the time, now the 3rd and the 4th are running low already. So Cure can't really keep this going for a whole lot longer. Like maybe for another 5 to 10 minutes. But eventually this is not a winning strategy for Cure. So I think it might be time to maybe mix it up or try to sneak out a base. I'm not even sure which one you take though here as Terran now. This one is not really accessible. The one over here is not either. Maybe kill one of the Zergs and try to take that mineral line instead. Not easily done. Alternatively, we can stop making SCVs, which seems to be what Cure is doing here, and just attempt to go for one big bulldozer. And this could be an overextension right here from Scarlett. She does get a nice fungal growth off, but I don't see the numbers here for Zerg at all. Yeah, that was expensive. That was very expensive. Cure still leading this pretty heavily too in the army supply. So basically what Cure is saying, I'm not going to make too many SCVs anymore. I'm just going to try and make one army that is going to be, well, nearly unstoppable for you. After the +1/+1, we do have a Spire now morphing into a greater Spire, so Brute Lords will be an option here for the Canadian Zerg player. I love this very swarmy army, though. Infestors burrowed in random spots. We only have 2 of them, but we're just hoping for the best. Heavy focus on creep spread again here by Scarlett. It makes it so that every single one of these Terran attacks is announced well in advance. Still a difficult amount of terrain to cover, yeah. And, well, +3 bio units here for Terran still deal a lot of damage. So the Ultra show, but a little bit too late to the party. Infestor gets spotted here too. Creep spread gets denied. Another planetary fortress is not going to survive this. Okay, fungal. Another fungal, but I think Scarlett should just back up. There's really no reason. Yeah, no reason to go up the ramp into that choke point again. Just deny these outer expansions over and over and over again. And at some point, Terran's going to have to make a call. Scarlett now taking one of the bases that is very close to where the Terran lives. Yeah, and Cure is thinking about taking that exact same location right now. Okay. So this is what Cure is going to be putting all of his eggs into, right? This little basket right over here, and he's going to carefully carry it across the map. This is an extremely wide open area. Not usually a place that Terrans like. Okay. He decides to... he's reconsidering it right now and goes for the base in the top right. I can't blame him. This is such a wide open spot. I don't think you can defend it as Terran ever. Even when you don't have to push into a creep like that. Still going to be difficult to achieve much. Nice Widowmine hit. Knight is where I'm in the top left-hand corner again, though, and this is so annoying. There are still some Marauders that have been patrolling the main base. Hatchery in the top right does fall, and you know what? We get some good snipes over here. The Ultras are struggling in this spot. Parasitic Bomb on the Medevac, Blinding Cloud as well going down, negating a lot of the micro potential here on that Terran army, but this is still an air Terran army, man, and it's so incredibly hard. A nosedive for both players' armies. Scarlett, though, has depleted most of her bank. I gotta compliment Cure here. This is looking like Scarlett's game, but Cure is not making it easy whatsoever. Supply-wise, Cure is now actually ahead. 9 Overlords are about to spawn, but this is an army that is phenomenal at killing Ultras. Cure is also now resecuring a base, and he needs a mineral line really soon. I would have loved to see Scarlett prioritize mining these bases that Cure is likely to take from her. I would have loved to see 16 drones going at these mineral fields, just because once they're mined out, that's it, right? They're not going to be coming back. Scarlett only having a few workers on this base means that most of these mineral fields are still pretty fresh, and Cure will be pretty happy with mining whatever he can here. Immediately mules land. Okay. Ultras take up position on the watchtower down south. Maybe Scarlett could consider taking this base. It's one of the expansions of course, that Cure has been mining for a while already. Liberator will indeed fall. Not much is done, but I think any moment right now that goes by is actually one that benefits from, Cure quite a bit. Cure was having issues getting back up to 200 supply. Now he's here, and he's got a phenomenal army and a fresh mineral line too. Is this game slipping out of Scarlett's fingers? We have some banger upgrades for the flying units, but only a handful of Corruptors here. It's 5 Corruptors. Maybe the plan is to do like a mass Brute Lord switch, but I'm not so sure. We know that there's going to be ghosts already. Nice fungal. Killing those ghosts is big. Infestor goes down as well before being able to do much. Good splitty right there on the Medevac. Little counter attack here for the Zerg in a location that doesn't matter much anymore to the Terran now. Another good fungal, but really no easy follow-up. Cure is not going to be content with just one new base. He's looking to get a second one as well. And I think Cure will gladly trade, well, a completely mined out mineral line for a fresh one now. As difficult as this location is to secure, maybe with these two bases working alongside each other, maybe Cure can actually get it done. Spending some energy right now off those orbital commands to get rid of the creep. Scarlett decides to take the base on the left. 38 Banelings coming up. But this is starting to look like a potential comeback here for the Terran. Ooh, this is going to get really close. This choke point, I mean, as difficult as this location in general is, if Zerg sends all of their units through the choke, I think it might be possible. Then again, though, this is an awful lot of Zerg. Banelings are rolling through. Keep in mind, they're rarely a cost-effective unit. EMP does go down, but not before a big fungal. And that is the majority of that Terran army disappearing. It gets wiped off the map, and Scarlett completely obliterates the Terran army. Suddenly, the cost-effectiveness here of the Zerg is looking way better. Look at that fight. That fungal growth was pivotal. 160 to like 90 supply there for the Terran's army. Base in the top right is going to be next. Despite a lot of ghosts here, some of the Zerg units will gladly sacrifice themselves in exchange for that orbital. SCVs have no longer got a place to mine now. Scarlett backs up. I think backing up here makes sense. Banelings on the ramp as well if Terran decides to chase. I love it. In the meantime, this mineral field, or this mineral line here, it was previously mined by the Terran. Now the Zerg is gonna try and gobble it up. I wouldn't mind seeing the Liberator repositioned here, but Cure doesn't know. Very easy to harass that base for the Terran, but you do have to be aware of the fact that the base is taken. Cure is gonna try and push onto the creep. I find this very ambitious. I mean, it's a nice Terran army, don't get me wrong, but fighting the Zerg off creep has proven difficult. Fighting it on creep is going to be way harder. This is not a base that really matters much to Zerg. Oh, Fungal. Yeah, still though. Ultras are just sort of dying. Okay, Corruptors do deal a lot of damage here. Keep in mind that the Corruptors are at +3. Armor upgrade coming up here as well now. The +3 for the armor research. Oh, those Banelings that were burrowed on the ramp. And Cure, I think that was just his last-ditch effort. Decides to tap out of the game as Scarlett obtains the victory. And that means that this series will come down to the map Tokamak. Let's see. Scarlett's been playing some very good StarCraft again, but if I have to be critical, I do believe it is a little bit... It's a bit easy to predict. I feel like all of the games that we have watched her play over the last couple of months against Terran specifically are variations of the theme that we just saw, right? Variations of this, like, mass Lingbane Ultra Infestor style. And it's really strong, it's really cool to see, but it does require, like, 2/3 of the map for it to be effective. And it's difficult to reliably pull that off if the Terran players know that that transition is going to be coming their way. I would love to see a bit more variety, maybe a little bit of early game aggression from the Zerg, just to mix it up. Maybe some mid-game transitions as well, could be really powerful. Now Cure, of course, not really somebody either that mixes it up all too much. Most of the time, actually, Cure is very much so the type of guy who will just do the same thing every single time. Triple CC Hellion Banshee has been, well, the way of this series so far. Not really seeing any variety here, though, for either player. So there are some all-ins you can go for as a Zerg, right? And likewise, there are some all-ins you can go for as a Terran. It's just that, like, this Roach Ravager opener shuts the majority of it down. And this Hellion Banshee opener from the Terran also shuts down the majority of the aggression that Zerg can go for. So in a way, they're both playing very macro-oriented styles right from the get-go. But there's got to be something you can try and do to wedge your way in between the thread at some point. Either way, I'm down for another half-hour-long macro game, though. We'll have to see what both players decide to go for. It's going to be a Reaper Scout here for Cure. Reaper into Marine, no SCV. Zerg going Hatch Gas Pool. Now sees exactly what's happening, as Scarlett sees indeed that there is a command center building. That Overlord is moving a little too far forward. Wouldn't mind seeing Cure maybe trying to see if something can be done about that, as there are 4 Zerglings at home, so it's unlikely that there will be another group moving out. Cure, though, just giving the Zerg player the benefit of the doubt, probably has lost that Marine more often than he's killed an Overlord with it. Okay. Triple CC. We've got a factory coming up. And then probably a starport here as soon as that thing is done. That's what we've been seeing every single time. Yep. Starport indeed. Barracks is going to land over here. And then we build a tech lab. Yeah, we build a tech lab. So the starport can indeed start producing Banshees once more. Scarlett mining just enough gas to go for 100 here. Now she's putting it back into the Vespian extractor, but the idea here is just to maximize mineral income for the time being. All of the things you build after link speed are, at least in the early game, going to require just minerals. So be it drones, queens, overlords, hatcheries, spore crawlers, even an odd spine crawler or evo chamber or 2, or even a roach warren. All of the things just require minerals. None of those structures and units require any gas. So Zerg's usually very, well, focused on trying to play that very clean early game there. You just don't need a lot of gas. All right, Cure coming in. Overlord once more, not in position, just like what we saw in the previous games. And that is really hurting the Zerg quite a bit, as Cure has decided, you know what? I have noticed some sort of weakness in your gameplay. Yeah, Scarlett has been extremely hesitant building drones. I quite like this actually from Cure, giving it a shot, at the very least forcing out a lot more Ling production. Huh. So, I talked about it in the previous game in particular, but Scarlett just doesn't make a lot of Zerglings early on. Seems like she's okay losing drones, just overbuilding them instead. Be careful now, Scarlett. Ooh. Why aren't we just making a big flux of, or like an influx of Lings? Finally, there's some showing up, but that's 6 drones going down. It was in exchange for 3 Hellions, of course, so by no means the end of the world, but... bit of a different follow-up, actually, too, here from Cure. So, rather than going to the cloaking upgrade, this is a tech lab for the barracks itself. So, the barracks is going to go straight into Stimpak. Looks like we're going to indeed add on 2 additional barracks, and the reactor will be produced by the starport itself. So, this is just going to be a good old bio follow-up. Cure actually mixing it up a little bit here. In the previous 2 games, he did not dive that aggressively with the Hellions. Now it's a little bit odd, because you've already given up 3 Hellions. Decides to remake them anyways. Scarlett doesn't yet have a Roach Warren this time around, so she is maybe trying to cut a corner. Stimpak is going to finish up, though, like literally like 3 minutes sooner. Okay, maybe more like 2 minutes sooner than what we've seen in the previous games. And the question is Zerg going to be prepared against it? Yeah, look at Cure. He's just driving in. Cure's like, yo, you don't make links? If you don't make links, I will just drive by. What? Sorry. Well, that is way too early of a GG. What in the world? Hold up right now. So this is seconds before... So this is seconds before Scarlett decides to tap out. There is this general feel for a lot of Zerg players right now that unless you have the perfect start to a game of StarCraft 2, you can't play Zerg. So it seems that there is this like general vibe right now with the highest ranking Zergs in the world that unless you have like pretty much a flawless start, you're gonna fall behind as the game progresses. But that was an insanely early an insanely early GG. I just want to go back one more time and see if anything else. Like, did she maybe, like, scout something? No, she did not. Did she, like, accidentally cancel her own 4th base? So this is when the Hellions are driving in. I would be very surprised. I don't think they're... No, the 4th goes down here because the game ends. Cancelled structures like that only get cancelled because of the... because of the game ending. That is a extremely early GG. Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate. I think across the board, Zerg players have that vibe. So when you think about it, what are the comeback mechanics for Zerg? Like, how do you come back into a game of StarCraft 2 in general? And there simply aren't that many. So she lost the Queen right there to the Liberator. She lost a whole lot of drones throughout this game. There is no Roach Warren. She doesn't really have any lifeline going, but it always feels a little bit weird to be GGing out as you still have a slight supply advantage, right? Certainly much too early there. I don't know if this was just generally frustration or maybe, I don't know, maybe a package got delivered. Maybe the doorbell rang and she's like, yo, this game is going terribly. I'm just going to GG out. Not a game for the fans, though, for that one. Unless you're a Cure fan, I guess. But certainly not the very best game of ZVT that we've ever seen. But a very fun series nonetheless. Hope you enjoyed watching it. Special shout out today to all of the Patreon supporters. If you want to join, you can head on over to patreon.com/LocoTV. Thank you very much.